a devil walkthrough for you, the first of 2 in this episode of All About Counter-Strike, and this one's the Falcons of old versus the Falcons of new, and I'm just super interested because I threw a bunch of questions at you about this, and you've been doing some research, you've been cracking on for me, so I'm going to hop on to Discord now, right?
What has changed essentially is the big question. So if we go through on the CT side, we have Kyxsan. He's moved into the B anchor role. Kyousuke takes that middle, but the rest is relatively unchanged. You know, Nico, and if we move Monos, he would be the support flasher for Nico and Tessus to take long. Nico is the short player, but here we're just seeing a little bit of an anti-eco, and you can see Kyousuke is a lot more aggressive than Kyxsan used to be. He's staying that mid doors, having that support, Nico kind of holding lower for him so he doesn't get popped off. So
But this
that's
is
the
great
only
to have
real
them to...
change for the CT side. I mean, we're gonna see rounds where you obviously have 4-man long and stuff like this, but he's the outside B player and Kyxsan is the anchor now. That's one change. So
Okay.
if we just talk about what does that imply for an in-game leader to be stepping into an anchor role. Now, the thing with Falcons is obviously Nico is running a lot of the show on the CT side. They've mentioned that multiple times in the past, so maybe that's not a
Yep.
big difference. But Kyxsan obviously being more used to being supportive and maybe used to having that kind of information flow that he can hear in middle to be able to direct his team a little bit more is lost and put a little bit
Okay.
more responsibility on Kyosuke, right? So that's where I
Yep.
could see, okay, this could be different. This could be, I mean, it could be good, it could be bad. We will see. Right now, they still look very, very positive on Dust 2, at least on the CT side. Now, for the T side, we have Nico moved into Dark. This is Tessa's old role. And we have
Okay.
Tessa's being more of actually outside long. Now, on this, they have, you see here, this is his responsibility. He's just taking it from different position. We have Kyousuke is on Nico's old role, being the more active, pressuring middle, taking short control, that kind of good stuff. And really, what I want to do is just, we can show you a little bit here, a video of what Nico does in this round, essentially, and how this impacts Nico's performance. Because you can be critical of Nico not posting the same numbers as he did before, but just
Yep.
imagine how big of a change this role is for him. He's holding upper dark, and the amount of opportunities and impact you can have is you can pressure with a little bit of a lurk smoke in a good timing, and he's being pressured here. He's doing it like he's doing a really good job here. To be
Okay.
fair, see Kyousuke is out middle at this point, and he's just pressuring. But you're not going to get that many opportunities as the previous playmaker of the team in a spot
Yeah.
like this, comparably, right? You're going to be there in the executes, perhaps go for a lurk kill in middle, etc. But you're not going to have the same impact as previously if we just jump into the old one with Magisk here. So here you see a normal standard round. We have Nico being active here, Magisk outside long. Kyxsan and Tessus has some kind of bait setup, maybe if someone goes aggressive. But here you see Nico, what he does is super, super smart. I'll actually go back here and show you why it's so smart. So he gets naded in lower here. He falls back, he plays a bit safe, he mollos, flashes short. The CTs then proceed to mollo themselves and nade. He instantly runs up to take short. He knows no one is playing close, I can take this safe. He's already put up a lurk smoke here. Now he will get a lot more opportunities by doing this. He's in a more central position. He can choose to go out
Yep.
middle. He can choose to poke out, short if they're doing some sort of B split. He can drop CT and help his team that way. But when you're isolated in dark, the only real thing you can do is you can help your teammates hold mid so they don't get flanked when they are short, or you can hold that dark spot, wait for them to kind of overwhelm middle and go in on the last second on B in a B split. That's what you can do. But otherwise, you're basically just holding the map control, and then you're rotating to whatever call it is. You can see Tess's here, for example. It's moving down
Yeah.
lower, grouping up with his team in the right timing, and rechecking dark. And then, okay, we don't have the timing now. And then essentially what I said, he will be a little bit passive, stay in that dark position, spray a little bit, and jump through the smoke when the timing is right. His job is
Yeah.
just to hold this, make sure the CTs don't push in when they do the B split.
And so
So
he's got
you
control of it the
don't
whole
get,
time.
yeah, but as Tess is playing this role here in the old, you don't get as much opportunities.
Yeah.
But if you see it, Nico here, he's the first one running up here into B, getting flashed in, bam bam, and he gets a kill back plats. And he has a lot more actions to obviously fail, but also to do good in to gain that impact. Um, so that's essentially what I wanted to go through on Dust.
So it's a lot though for Nico, who was always the star, always set up to have these plays, right? That
Yeah.
he will be now in a position where he's not just given up all of this, but he's learning something new later in his career. Now,
Yes.
definitely very experienced, an amazing player. He can adapt to this, but it's like you're giving up everything you're used to doing. And people
Yeah,
are going to
but
look at the numbers, right? They're going to focus on the stats and say he's
exactly.
not doing this, but he's now not in a position to do that.
No, now you know if you would just take it in, if you would play dark every single round. Obviously, a Counter Strike team doesn't really. This is not the round that's played every single round where it's
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah.
dark. But there are things where he's not going to have as much impact, but it's also going to affect the team when they want him to have impact. Here's a good round, a good example of what can happen when you want him to have a lot of space taking. He's holding a little bit upper dark. They've lost an entry in top middle. They want to group up here and lower. And what happens here is like you've left a lot of space to get flanked when you've lost this entry. Where maybe
Yep.
in the past you would have a Tessus holding lower, but they're staying very, very grouped, very, you know, there's like a 40-second margin of they could push. Now they don't
Yeah.
get punished for it in this round, but there is a sense where with the new roles, um, you're not as aware. Like I don't think they ever even checked behind them for a long push. Here is the last time, and that's probably a 25-second mark where someone could have pushed and shot them in the back. Now these are
Yeah.
small details that you're not used to having this responsibility, and it creates gaps in the way you play, even if it's not intentional. It's something that they will learn, and that it will iron itself out a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but they're definitely not used to it yet, and it's gonna make them, even though you have a very good Kyousuke who's momentum based, he gets frags and he wins you rounds on his own. If
Yeah.
the rest of the team isn't really following up and isn't, know all the intricacies of their
That's
role,
correct. Yep.
um, you're still gonna leave gaps and you're gonna be punished for them, especially when you're playing a high tier tournament like this. And
Yeah.
swapping a role from a playmaker to a passive role is an extreme change. Even though he's a great player, but he's great not only because of his high mechanical skills, but because he's smart and he takes fast decisions
Yeah.
when he gets the correct information. And you're not going to get that much info in these roles that he
And
currently has.
and for that, right? Obviously, it's Nico's going to be affected mostly, right? But am I right in saying that Nico's
It's
affected as
actually a
well? But
mix.
it's also, yeah, there's more players that are going to be hit by this, right? Which is why the team looks so less synergized now.
So even if we're like looking at like most of the maps,
Hmm.
it's actually like the one that is changing the positions the most is Tessus and like Nico and Kyxsan together. But
Hmm.
Tessus and Kyxsan, the Tessus is taking the brunt of the changes.
Okay, so
most of the
he's the one who's
time.
going to suffer the most.
Because it's a lot of these things where if we would move on to more maps, we will eventually see it. Like if we take
Yep.
a look at Mirage now, for example. So previously we had a Nico being under or top mid in a more of a
Yep.
playmaking role. Now we have a Kyosuke here, a Magisk Nico position, or however you want to call it, but Magisk's old position here on T side, Nico is taking.
Yep.
Now this is a role where you can be very smart. You can find opportunities to take that one-on-one duel, but you're usually going to be traded. But you have more opportunities than a B site dark
Yeah, like a
player.
double push, a ramp or something,
So
right, coming
you have
down.
multiple opportunities to do something and link up with your team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so here on the T side, it's just a straight swap in Kyosuke to Nico and Magisk. If we look at this is the old. So Nico was the playmaker here.
Yep.
Tessus has the same role here, but yeah, they're supporting. So there's not that much more. If we look at CT side, we had Magisk here, we had Kyxsan here, we had Tessus on short, but in the new one with Kyosuke, Kyosuke is taking Tessus spots. Tessus is moving to B anchor, and Kyxsan is moving to A anchor. And Nico
Mm-hmm.
is still in his CT spot. So I think what they've tried to do is like, okay, Nico is used to calling CT sides, so therefore he will be a little bit more untouched on the CT side. And try to move other people around. But it's also Kyusuke was a short player before, and then they've done this kind of rocade, or so to speak. But yeah, it is a big change for especially Tessus here, being an active player to jumping B apps. He's kind of taking a step back, and you're gonna see that on other maps as well. Nuke, essentially, a good example of that, where
Mm-hmm.
we have here Tessus. This is the old with Magisks. So you have Magic here in lobby, you have Monacy kind of filling in if they want to do any ramp pressure. Tessus is in top silo, and Nico is on the yard um, here, like the playmaker, once they do the smoke
Yeah.
and Kyxsan supporting him. So in the new one, it's Kyosuke is actually lower yard, Nico goes top silo, and Tessus is moved into lobby lurk. Um, we'll see that, for example, here. So it's essentially the same playstyle. They've just swapped a little bit of positions, but
Yep.
it's still 3 new positions on the T side. It's like more than half the team is changing
Yeah.
their roles in some sort of way. Even if Nico is used to yard, he's used to being the lower yard that kind of takes the space and kind of creeps around in the smokes. Maybe isn't
Yep.
as used to maybe looking at an op when you jiggle the silo corner. Um, but when it comes to this, also, I think one thing that kind of takes a little bit of time when you're changing the playmaker, especially on a map like Nuke. But either way, we're going into this. So this is the same round where we have kind of Kyosuke in the aggressive form here, where you have the smokes. Something that happens when you change players is like it can be hard to find the right way to condition the CTs because you're not
Mm-hmm.
used to what conditioning is, and how do you condition in Counter Strike? You essentially try to utilize this name smoke pattern, same kind of pressure, kind of trick the CTs into reacting or trying to figure out how they react or try to solve a problem. This could be, for example, here, the CT solution was to push through the smoke and try to
Yep.
challenge them before.
But
And
he's
you
ready
see
for it.
the rest of the team are essentially they're ready to go for some kind of ramp push. But just doing this, applying the same pressure, like next round, I'm sure that he wouldn't push it through the smoke. So they kind of had to try to figure out a little bit, okay, what's the next solution? Maybe they're nading smokes, they're putting the AWP out here, maybe 3 or 4. or 3 CTs are ready when they break the smoke. Try to figure
Hmm.
that out and find the right timing. Now, if you're consistently changing personnel and you're used to a certain way of calling and a certain pressure to be applied in a way, or a certain way of communication style in that to figure out information, that can be way harder to do with a new player who need to learn what information is actually important to convey when you're being that playmaker and solo player. Something that Nico has a bunch of experience in.
Well, I was going to say that we always talk about Nico's style of being a captain, right? Not an in-game leader,
Yeah.
but a captain, a leader of men. And his voice is so important. Kyousuke's coming onto his first attempt of speaking English in a team, right? He's
Yep.
played his faces. He can do it. But do you also think that that synergy with the team is also going to have taken a hit? The positions are there, and
100%.
then also the communication is not going to be on point, which is going to make it even harder for them to know what might be needed or what be done. Because what might have been natural to him in Spirit Academy, and his team know exactly what to do, is going to be non-existent right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also not, even though like Tessus, Modus, and Nico, they've been in a team together for a while, they've kind of synergized with the players they played with. So, for example,
Yeah.
Nico and Tessus have had a synergy on Yard with Monacy or Kyxsan, who's supporting them. And then when Monacy is going into, when they're playing 3-2 on outside with 2 lobby, Monacy has been playing with Magisk. They're used to a different kind of temp, or maybe they swing different, clear different, and you're used to like a different shift of movement together. And these are
Mm-hmm.
things that you maybe don't necessarily voice everything, how you're moving and how you want to react, but you maybe have things like you want to clear this corner, I'll clear this and I'll push forward, but maybe he's still holding from a longer away angle and he's not ready for the trade when he pushes forward, etc. These are like small details that actually does take a little bit of time for players to learn, even if you're doing it with, you know, the same teammate in
Yeah.
essentially. But these things, let's just say like the best team is the one that makes the least mistakes, and the more
Yeah.
gaps you're gonna give for you to make small, even micro mistakes or macro mistakes, you're gonna have a higher chance of losing. I mean, simple as that. And it's gonna take a little bit of time with people having 3 new roles on T side for them to get to know that player in that situation again. And
Yeah.
they're going to have
And
to
this is the
talk
first
things
event.
through. Yeah. And it's going to take a couple of months because even though we say, yeah, it's Magic versus, minus and plus Kioske, it's not as simple as that because a lot of moving pieces is being placed in different positions and they need to learn. It's not like Tessis has been lobby lurking for his entire life. He needs
Yeah.
to, yeah, but it's hard to get to know these timings. You need to. It takes a while. It's like we talked about rain becoming an anchor all of a sudden. It takes time for people to learn these new roles. Yeah, they might have a
Mm-hmm.
good idea of it, but a good
Different
idea is
play in
not
it.
enough to play in the best tournaments in the world against the best players in that positions. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see a little bit of an off time where people have to figure out a little bit more of how can I regain the impact I had in my previous role in my new one.
So I said this, right, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. I said that with this new Falcons team, I think it'll take 3+ months for them to get back to even have a chance of being at the level they were when they had the old team. And people were complaining about like, oh, Magic's this and Tesla's this, whatever else, but they were still placing well. The major was embarrassing. That wasn't good enough, right? But they knew these
Yeah.
changes coming in. Magic already knew it was being kicked. So there's a lot of factors in this. But now people expect, because Kioski was what, 1.5, 2 million. We don't know what the rumor is, right? To take him. More money spent. Falcons being such a team that everyone loves to hate and meme on. I just think if you just look at the players and you look at the ability that's there, if we're being realistic with all these changes you're talking about, the positions, the new way they have to get used to everything, is 3 months, you think, is like a fair time? Is it like almost starting fresh?
I think it, at least on maps and sides where they have positional changes where there's like 3 uh, players that I kind of have to do like a chess rocade, or I don't know if that
Hmm.
is the word, but
I don't play
either
chess,
way,
so I don't know.
but it might be the Swedish word. But either way, like they're shifting three people to different roles and
Yes.
spots. There is a relearning experience because it's a lot. It's like changing, like you have to change your whole T side to some degree, um, and you're probably gonna first, month probably just rehash how you played before, and then
Hmm.
maybe this style doesn't really work with Tessa being lobby lurk compared to Magisk. Maybe he needs more help or more support, or maybe Kiosk needs more support and need to shift more people to playing heavy outside on the T side. There's a lot of these small intricacies that some rounds will work with different players and they will not work with a new one, even though he might be a better player, just because they think differently, they approach things differently. Uh, Maybe
Much different
one
level of
guy is
experience.
more of a lurker and tries to bait and gain information, while the other one is aggressive and takes the entries. So these
Yeah.
things are can have a huge impact in how the round is being developed.
And does that mean like everyone's calling already that this is such a disappointment? Obviously, I think even Nico. Let me check. He tweeted like it's embarrassing or something. If
Yeah,
I'm
it's
right.
something along those lines. I think
Which, by the way,
embarrassing.
doesn't help. Yeah, he goes embarrassing. Sorry. Like, first of all, it's bad, but is it really embarrassing? Like, I know the individual performance he won't be happy with, but if you're being fair with all the things we're talking about and looking at in these changes, I wouldn't call it embarrassing yet. The major was embarrassing, but
No, I think we can even reference Vitality to this point. If you looked at the
mhm,
bounty, the Blast Bounty one in the
beginning of
beginning
the
of the
year, yep,
year, they obviously did really well in the online phase and then went to the LAN event and actually crashed out completely. And it
yeah,
was noticeable that they were not ready yet. They did not have
hmm,
figured out all the minor details for how ROPS is going to be gain impact. Now, obviously, they figured out Kioske, how he's going to get impact, but it's affected a lot of different players, and they need to
yeah.
rethink the whole model in a certain sense. Um,
You
Now
got
we
one
can
more
look
for us?
at Train as well, just quickly.
Yeah, man.
So here we have a little bit of change. This is still like a big change. So Kioske goes
Okay.
front yard. Let me get my drawing out. So Kioske is here on front yard. We have
Hmm.
Kyxsan actually being the Ivy player now, which was Tess's role before. And Tessus goes
Okay.
inside to take Magic's anchor role. Um, so you're essentially seeing it like this. And in this, Kyxsan was before, he was a very front yard heavy player, going into
Yep.
pop, taking T main. Nico is kind of unchanged in his position a little bit. I think only a little bit stylistically. They were a lot more to front yard when they had Magisk compared to how they are playing now. Now they're playing
Hmm.
a little bit more one forward, one back, with Monacy obviously being that rotation player. And also, like on the inside, I think that Tessus is a little bit more aggressive, trying to play this upper position compared to Magisk, who was playing very info based in these sorts of positions. Um, so he's a little bit more aggressive, tends to like this position and taking some random timing duels, comparably. But they look solid on the CT side again with Nico, and this shift hasn't really done that much. And on T side is essentially just a straight swap for Kioske. So before it was Nico and Kioske going inside together and kind of clearing pop, and then going into holding brown holes. I don't know what
Hmm.
everyone calls it, but I call it brown hole. Um, so essentially, here there's not much change for them. On train, they're pretty much just a straight swap with Kioske from Magisk on T side.
Okay.
Tess is
So
still
that's not
being
a huge one then.
guy holding alley. Kyxsan likes to be here around supporting, holding T mid a little bit, and Monacy floating a little bit more depending on where they want to apply that extra pressure. Sometimes towards inner, sometimes helps Tessus take that peak Ivy. So there's not much changing. Here they actually play pretty much identical to what they did with Magisk.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is just to visualize. They played a little bit more front yard heavy, with
Yep.
Tessus being the guy coming out, but not much big of a difference. I think this could be essentially a meta change rather than them changing personnel. If I'm completely honest, that people have started to figure out train a little bit more.
Okay, so it's just an updated playbook more than anything.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was essentially it for showing you a little bit on the maps that they have played.
Well, it was a very detailed Devilwalkthrough, which I appreciate, because it was trying to understand this, right? And obviously on the broadcast, there's only so much they can do in timing to show any of this, but we can really deep dive into having a look at what's possible, what the reasons are, because I think there was quite an overreaction of like, oh, kyousuke played really well, everyone else on the team failed, like, what are these people doing, you know? And it's like, that again comes down to these people that maybe don't understand Counter-Strike to the right level, because there's so much more in it, especially in this one.